A very good evening to you all listening this evening to the program, the NYJ podcast, which is coming to you live from the studios here in London and also coming to you live from Faith Channel Radio, Channel of Mercy, Supreme Praise Radio, and streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and also on all the major platforms for podcasting. This program is the NYG podcast, and this evening we are having a look at a very important discussion, a very important topic, and we want to discuss what it is that we need to know in life. We are talking about purpose. And before we go ahead to talk about purpose, I would want you to know that this evening I am not here alone. I'm here with somebody who, by God's grace, ever since coming into contact with this person, God, through him and through his mercies, has transformed my life, has also brought me into the realization of purpose also in my life. And it's none other than the very senior bishop of Temple of Grace. He is also the co-founder and co-CEO of Channel of Mercy Radio. And so I'm very privileged to have with me this evening Dr. J, who will be doing most of the exposition this evening and also will be teaching us more on the practical understanding and also the realization of our purpose. The main reason why we are discussing purpose is we need to find out how can our purpose relate to our success? How can purpose relate to our future and our destiny achievements? And so it is very essential that as we live, as we are humans, we need to understand what purpose is all about. We need to understand our purpose in life, the reason why God has brought us into this world, the reason why we are even alive today. Many are those who are dead and gone, but we, that is you and I, are alive today. And so we need to understand and find out what our God-given purpose is all about. Before I introduce Dr. J, let me quickly say that we sincerely apologize to our viewers, those who are on Facebook. I think we just had a little delay in the stream on Facebook, so it is coming up in just about a minute. But before then, we'll still go ahead and do our introduction. And so I would like to say a very, very good evening to you, Dr. J. And thank you very much. There couldn't be any other moment, any other person than to have you this evening on this very wonderful NYJ podcast, which is streaming all over across the globe, and for you to be a blessing also onto us. Dr. J, thank you very much and welcome to the NYJ podcast.
Thank you, and a very good afternoon to you and to every listener out there.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I would want to say that it is an honor to always be with you on set, especially doing live programs, because I learn a lot from you and you have also impacted a lot in my life. Thank you very much. Listeners, we are going to talk about purpose today. And before we go ahead to even talk about what purpose is all about, why we need purpose, I think I would briefly let Dr. J also say a word or two, and then after which we will kickstart. So, Dr. J, once again, thank you. Welcome to today's discussion, which is on purpose. I don't know what you want to say briefly, then I will come in with a few bits and pieces, then we can pick it from there.
Well, I think I'm just like a sheep being led to the slaughter this afternoon. and I will follow as you tread. But what I want to say to every listener out there is that I believe that it is said that God packages himself into moments. And I believe that this is one of those moments that I believe with all my heart that God is packaged himself into. And I believe there are things we will talk about and share that you already know, but some of you have never heard it on our lips. That is what makes the difference. So we are not going to reinvent the wheel, but we are just going to look at what is already out there and what you already know and try by the grace of God to put things into perspectives. So we pray that the Lord will guide and lead us in this discussion today. And I pray that let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable unto thee, O Lord, and help everyone out there to come into this fold of understanding what their purpose are in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Dr. J. And already, I believe that you have.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Dr. J.
I don't know if...
Yes, I'm here, Dr. J. Thank you very much. And already you have set the tone. Already it is just amazing. Okay, so let me look at what purpose is all about. And I would also continue to, I would just leave that bit of it. Our technicians are working hard to get the Facebook stream on. And so in just about a minute, all the wonderful viewers on Facebook will be able to view this podcast as well. So when we talk about purpose, we want to find out what exactly purpose is all about. When we talk about purpose, we want to find out what exactly purpose is all about. And in my study, or let's say in my quest to find out what purpose on its own it's all about, I found out that purpose is the reason for which, and that is, for a moment I paused to just try and find a deeper understanding or a deeper meaning into for which, because it says that purpose can be defined as the reason for which something is done or created. But I also, in my own understanding, I reframed it as purpose, the reason for which you were created or for which reason you exist on this earth. And so that means whatever or whoever you are, there is a reason for your being. There is a reason for your creation. You were not born by mistake. You may have come out of wedlock. You may have just questioned why you even live, whether if God has forsaken you or not. Looking at your circumstances and looking at the situation in which you are going through, you may just be asking yourself, why me? But there's one thing that we, as Dr. J said, we haven't really paused to ask ourselves or question or find out why our existence, why the need for us to even be alive today. And so I believe that purpose being defined as the reason for which you were created or exist, that means everybody, you and I, we have a reason for which we have been created or made. And then let me also give a different exposition to the purpose here, which also says that a person's sense of resolve or determination, that is a person's sense of resolve or determination, but that has to do with the world's understanding or definition of purpose. I also further went on to look for purpose. And then one thing that I saw which really, got me thinking was when I got to Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1. It says, to everything there is a season, a time to every purpose. And for a moment, I just said, oh, wow. So it means that even within purpose, there is a season for purpose, and there is a time also in purpose. That is when I came out to say that, okay, so if the season is being when and the time is being if, that means we need to understand that until we come to the realization of our purpose, until we get to know and understand for which purpose we are alive and living, we might just live and miss the mark. We might just live and probably live a life which somebody will say in quotes a wasted life. But then if at one point in time we had realized that there was a purpose for which we have been made or we have been created or for our existence, we could have transformed our life. We could have changed our life, and not just our lives alone, but we could have changed the lives of those who are close to us. I've come to understand that until you get to understand the reason of your being, if you don't know your purpose, you might even be living with your destiny helper. You might even come into contact with somebody who God has assigned or strategically placed in your life to be a blessing to you. But because you are not certain and you are not sure of your purpose, you might end up declaring that person as an enemy. You might end up seeing that person as somebody who is, the cause of your failure or the cause of your downfall. And I will not go too much because we are just at the beginning, but I will let Doug also come in and say one or two whilst we go ahead. But after that, I'll come in. There are three things we'll be looking at today, which I will be setting the tone for us to look critically at. And these three things are the very basic secrets that every individual, every human being needs to know. That when you know these basic three things, then you'll be able to discover the purpose for which God created you, and then you will also be able to find your success out of your purpose. But before I let Doc come in, I'll just quickly say this one thing, and then I will invite Doc to come. We are currently streaming live on YouTube at the NYJ Podcast, on Facebook at the NYJ Podcast, on Supreme Praise Radio, Channel of Mercy Radio, Faith Channel Radio, and also across Facebook on the NYJ Podcast. And so, Doug, I will let you come in, after which I would give a practical relation to identifying and discovering your purpose. But this evening, we'll be sharing three basic secrets to helping you practically discover your purpose. And we'll be looking at discovering your purpose. We'll also be looking at developing your purpose, and we'll be looking at how you can transfer or transform your life after you've discovered and developed your purpose. So Doug, I would invite you to come in at this moment, so you will give us a further exposition to our discussion.
Right. I very much wish you set the tone for me. You set the tone, as you said, before I come in. But
okay.
What I would say is that I believe that you can live your whole life in such a way that you may never be able to realize the real reason why you are here. And I believe that this is one of the reasons why we are doing what we are doing. That with the platform that we have, what can we say? What can we ask? What can we poke you on so that you will be stirred up, or you will wake up to that which God has really for you. And the focus of this discussion is to help you out there to be able to re-examine where you are, to be able to rediscover what you have and to be able to look back and see how far you have come and to be able to raise your head and look on the horizon to see if you are heading the right direction. So to some of you out there, this will just be a process of re-examining yourself, your calling, your whole disposition in life. And to some of you, it will reaffirm to you that yes, you are in the right direction, doing what you are doing. And I believe that by the time we will finish, somebody also who is confused and does not know exactly what is happening will be able to navigate from where they are at to be able to head in the right direction. So, yes, God bless you for making this happen, and let's go. Let's do it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Doug. I'm going to set the tone as I borrowed that from you. So you are listening to us this evening, and I would want to ask you, have you taken time to find out or discover what your purpose is? Why do you always come to a point where you feel you are so inferior? Why do you see everyone around you as an enemy? Why do you feel that there is nothing good that can come out of you even when you are doing your best? Are you feeling like, yes, I'm working long hours, I'm doing a lot, and yet there's nothing coming out of it? Well, purpose, when not realized or discovered, could be a dangerous ground. When you don't even know the purpose for you getting married, you might end up even saying your wife was the wrong person for you to have married. If you don't know the purpose for which you got employed or for which you want to go to school and study, you might even be in a university and think, I am in the wrong venture. But when you know your God-given purpose, when you know the reason for your being and your existence and why you are even pursuing the path in which you are, you pursue it with all diligence, you are happy, you do not see your wife, your children, your family, your manager, everybody around you as enemies, because you understand and know your purpose. For this reason, let me take you to a story in the Bible whereby a slave from a certain town called Shushan, a lady called Hadassah, whom were captured in slavery by the king Nebuchadnezzar and was brought into a certain place. And then I'm talking about King Ahasuerus. And then this very young lady, who did not know for which reason his uncle had made everything possible for her to get to the king's palace, and was by grace made queen, yet did not know and understand for which purpose she was strategically placed where she was. Tragedy, misunderstanding, chaos, and even to the point of death. The Jews in this situation were handed a decree by someone who even Esther herself, her uncle Mordecai, and the Jews saw as their enemy. They did not like Haman because Haman never liked the Jews. But you see, little did Esther, the young fair lady called Hadassah from Shushan, knew that God elevated her to the position in which she was for a purpose. When she had an encounter with the king Ahasuerus, he said, "We have been captured as slaves into the king's palace where the maidens are kept. But for my own heart desire, I wouldn't have been here." But she did not know that there was a purpose and a reason for her being in that palace. I'm just setting the tone, and I'll leave it for Doug to give us a deeper insight into this, or as I'll put it, a further explanation an insight into this. All I'm trying to say is, when you don't know your purpose, when you can't relate your purpose to your existence in life, you may be strategically placed at a position whereby that is your jumping board, or that is your springboard to success. But then you will end up looking at your situation, you will end up looking at your surrounding, you will end up complaining about everything around you. Most importantly, you begin to see people around you as enemies. But you see, today you may be listening to us and you find yourself in such a situation. You look left, right, and all you see is, well, this person doesn't like me. Well, my wife is always at my back. My children are always doing this. When I go to work, I'm not happy because I don't like the work I'm doing. Well, my pastor always sees me to be a lazy person. We end up complaining. There are instances in the Bible where God made us understand, and if we look at Proverbs, for instance, there are instances whereby when you get to know your purpose in life, your enemies would even subdue to you. I will pause here for a moment and I'll let Doug take over from here. That could it be that lack of understanding or the realization of our purpose has made so many people failed in life, and yet they could have strategically be where God has positioned them? I don't know, but then I believe so much that the inability for us to discover our purpose is the reason we are not able to develop it and yet transform our lives. Doug, I'll leave it here for you to take us into a deeper teachings.
Well, you are equally taking us deeper, so I'll just compliment what you are saying. And I believe that the story you brought up sets forth a very practical tone for it. And if you look at the story of Esther, it began at some point, but you realize that Esther basically was just taking instructions from his uncle. And as she heeded to the instructions and followed, Esther, mind you, had lost her parents and was being raised by her uncle. And she listened to her uncle and just followed her uncle, whilst on the backdrop, God was doing his own thing. And today we look at that story, and it is in retrospect that we read it and we see that, hey, the queen failed to show up before the king to dance and do whatever he had to do. And the king was advised by his counselors that he should ditch the queen, leave the queen, and let them put something together and bring in young girls. And so the king will have the opportunity to choose whoever her heart delights in. That was God opening a door for Esther, as we saw. And Esther, through this open door, became the queen. And when Esther became the queen, you realize that Esther still did not really know why she was there. All I believe she had was she had an opportunity to change her lifestyle. And somebody is out there listening to us, and you are in a situation that is comfortable today, but that doesn't mean you know why you are there. All you know is that you have a good opportunity. All you know is that life has placed you on a pedestal that is different from others. But the question is, do you really know why? That is the crust of the issue of purpose. And wherever you are positioned right now, do you really know why? Like Esther, do you really know why? Because that is where the issue of purpose comes together. So you don't have to go through the motions of life. So you realize in the story that you brought up with Esther, that tragedy struck. And when that happened, Mordecai had to reach out to Esther. And you even see that Esther gave a reason why she's not able, because there were stipulations, there were rules to be followed. You just cannot show up before the king, whether you are the queen or whatever you are, you just cannot show up before the king. But the truth is that when situations, God uses situations to propel us and to bring us into what he has destined for us. And we see that story in Esther. And that is, to me, that is a very practical example that takes us off all the cosmetics. So you don't look for whatever principles and laws and whatever it would take for you to discover your purpose. Look right where you are and look at the occurrences of your circumstances. It is right where you are. God orchestrates life circumstances and situations that will bring you into the real reason why you exist. And this was what happened with Esther. And Mordecai sent back the envoy to tell Esther that if you will not go before the king and you will stick to the rules of the palace, well, let that stick up with you. But as for me and the people, help will come. But you will suffer it at the end. And when Esther heard that, she was gingered up. And that's my prayer, that somebody will hear something we are talking about today that will ginger you and bring you into where you really have to be. So when Esther heard that, Esther was prompted. And then Esther took a decision that I believe that every man, every woman with a purpose must take, that I will fast 3 days and go to the king. And she said, and if I perish, I perish. That must be the voice of purpose. That must be the voice of acknowledging the real reason why I am positioned here in this family. The real reason why I have gone through everything that I've gone through. If I perish, I perish. You leave yourself with no room of escape than to fulfill destiny. That was what Esther rose up to. And we saw the rest of the story in Esther and the beauty of it. And today, we talk about Esther every time. Amen. So that is a very practical and beautiful way of looking at somebody who, through the vicissitudes of life, came into the realization of purpose. And if I would just add a little to that,
yes, please,
and before you come in again, if you look at the scriptures, I want to quickly read a scripture that has been on my heart. Luke chapter 9. Luke chapter 9, the verse 23, which I believe that Jesus, in a very explicit manner, detailed what purpose is all about and what our goal and our purposes should be. And if you look at Luke 9 verse 23, it says, and he said to them all, if any man will come after me. It says, if any man will come after me. And there are certain things he said he should do. Let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Anybody that comes in through this door and with the understanding of this scripture will discover what we are calling purpose today. Your reason for existing and your part that you need to play in life. And it says, for whosoever will save his life shall lose it. But whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. For what is a man advantaged if he gain the world and lose himself or be cast away? It says, if any man. Now, quickly, let me say this. Jesus had told them that he was going to die on the cross. Now, Bible says it was a curse for any man to die on the cross. So clearly, it was not a palatable thing for them. And it was not something that they were looking forward to, some of them. Now, it was really bad enough for them to hear Jesus tell them that he was going to suffer, that he was going to be rejected, that he was going to die on a cross. And whatever he said to them was not what they expected to hear. And to add salt to injury, Jesus says to them that if any man will come after me, let him deny himself. Listen, going through the way of the cross was the most painful and the most dreadful thing any man living in those days could dream of, because you were hanged on the cross and the birds of the air will feast on you till you died. And sometimes they left people on the cross. Now, at the end of the day, Jesus said, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself. Let him stop himself from going through anything that he's used to or wants to do. He should pick up the cross. He should come on a one-way stream, one-way road, one-way journey, until you rise up to a one-way stream, a one-way road, to be able to realize and come up with what you were meant to be and to do. It will be difficult to find your purpose and to come into your purpose. So for Jesus to say, carry your cross and follow me, it's telling you what your whole journey is about. That is not going to be that sweet. That is why somebody may be listening to us today wondering if my life is going the right way. Sometimes it's not going to go the right way, but the discovery of purpose is not a gift. It's not a gift. I grew up hearing that there are 5 questions everybody has to answer. And in case you haven't taken yourself through that or asked yourself those questions, as we talk about purpose, I believe this is where you need to ask yourself those questions. The first question you need to ask yourself is, who am I? Who am I? What is your identity? Who am I? That is touching on identity. And then, where am I from? Your source. The truth is, if you do not know who you are, you will not be able to know where you are coming from. And if you can be able to determine your identity and be able to determine your source, then you can answer the question, why am I here? And the why am I here is your purpose. Your purpose. So if you look at the Esther scenario, Mordecai made Esther to realize who she really was. And Esther realized that I was not born in the king's palace. I was not born to be here. I got here because somebody's position was taken away. And so by my uncle's advice, I got here. So what Mordecai said to Esther by saying, this is the real reason why you are here. And if Esther, you don't do it, God will raise somebody, was to help Esther come to that place of identity. And then Esther was reminded of her source. Her uncle literally was her source. Therefore, she must listen to her source. So if you don't, you cannot come up to who you are. And to know who you are, you will not know where you are coming from. So you can see what Jesus said. If any man wants to follow me, he must deny himself and realize that what I stand for is what they must stand for. You've got to identify with Christ. And I'm sure you are listening and you have identified with Christ. But have you become aware who your source is? Maybe you think your source is your village, your culture, because a lot of us, we have missed our purposes because we have been defined within the confines of our culture, our habits, the people who raised us, and where we know we come from. If I ask you, where do you come from? A lot of you will tell me, I'm from Africa. I'm from Europe. I'm a European. I'm an African. As long as this is what is in your mind, it's difficult to be able to know why you are here. Why you are here. But if you understand that your source is God, if you understand that by coming into Christ, every dynamic changes about your life. Your source is God. Your source is that power. Your source is that person who says, identify with me, who and where you owe your identity. And you understand this very well, then you will know that there are no limitations to your life. Wherever you find yourself, you will thrive, because you will be able to know why you are where you are, which is what we are talking about, purpose. So it's important. And when you know your purpose, then the fourth question is, what can I do? And that becomes your potential. A lot of us, we try to do when we don't even know why we are here. We try to do, so you realize that we have put the horse, how do they say it? Putting the horse before the cart. We have put the cart before the horse. We want the cart to draw the horse. And this is where we struggle. And a lot of times we go for all sorts of abstract teachings and positive confessions and all that. And we are confessing them to bring out our potentials when we don't really know what our purposes are. But you see, it is out of your purpose that your potential can be discovered. Because when you know your purpose, then you know what you have been cut out to do, and you know what you can fulfill. So what can I do hinges on your purpose. And then the last question I learned whilst I was growing up is, where am I going? Your destiny. And there are too many things we embrace. My destiny encounter, my destiny fulfillment. This year is my year of destiny. This year is my year of fulfillment. All the crefet jargons that we give ourselves to. When we don't really, if you don't know your purpose or understand your purpose, how are you going to fulfill your destiny? And we claim, my confession shall be my possession. Who deceived you? You can confess anything you want to confess. If you have the cart drawing the horse, you are doomed. That is why it's like the charismatic church has become a disgrace to the kingdom lifestyle. And if we're talking about the kingdom lifestyle, then you've got to discover your purpose, as NYG put it. And in discovering your purpose, you've got to realize that they say apples don't fall far from the tree. God, in his wisdom, does not place your purpose in any hidden place. There are things he has put in place around you. Your experiences and everything around you must help you discover your purpose. Like I said in Esther, when tragedy struck, Esther found her purpose. There are a lot of things we run away from in life, and those are the things God has put together for us to discover our purposes. There are things that we go and sow seed in churches that God would take away from us and destroy our enemy. But God has raised that Pharaoh around your life so that you'll be able, by the threats of that Pharaoh, discover your purpose. God has placed so many things around you and so many situations so you can be able by them to rise up and come into your purpose. Discover the real reason why you have there. And if we go, let me just add this to it, then you come in. Bible says that God said, let us create man in our image and in our likeness. Listen, when God decided to create man, he put everything in you. So I want somebody listening to us right now to understand that you don't need to go and do any course to discover your purpose. God locked your destiny within you. He locked the reason for your existence within you. God finished it. And because God finished it, you've got to look within to be able to discover your purpose. Amen.
Thank you very much, Doug. And if you just tune in or you are listening to us, this is the NYG podcast. We are live on Channel of Mercy Radio in Sheffield, United Kingdom. We are also live on Faith Channel Radio, Supreme Praise Radio, or in London, and streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube at the NYG podcast. Doug, you've said a lot, very insightful. I mean, life transforming scenarios. I would want to move away from where you ended, but let me just touch briefly on the Esther Mordecai scenario, and then we'll move into another phase of that is developing your purpose. When I read the story of Esther and Mordecai, one thing that I also found out and I questioned was, why did Mordecai made Hadassah go to the king's palace as Esther, and then by telling her that she should not disclose her identity as a Jew? Could that mean that Mordecai had a purpose? He knew that if Hadassah had disclosed that she was a Jew, she would not even be allowed in the king's palace. But maybe too, Mordecai did not know or did not have that purpose. But just as you said earlier on, that sometimes our purpose are hindered even from birth by our own parents, by people who take care of us. But this is Mordecai, who saw an opportunity for Esther to become queen. And what he could ask himself was, knowing where we had come from, we being slaves or we being Jews, Hadassah could not go into the king's palace as who she was. And so what can I do? He first changed his identity and said, listen, you are going there as Esther, but not Hadassah the Jew. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up was, sometimes growing up, your parents will tell you, you know what, I want you to be an engineer. I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be this. Is that the God-given purpose inside of you? Is that the reason for which God made your existence? But yet our parents or people we know will tell you, oh, you know what, because you are good in mathematics, and so I believe that you should be an engineer. Because you are eloquent and fluent, I believe that you can be a judge or you can be a journalist or something. But the question is that the purpose for which God has brought you to existence? And then this same person who had a purpose of sending Esther to the palace to become queen, this same person, when disaster struck, as you just said, it was this same person who reminded her that could it be that it is for this purpose that God has brought you this far? We want to look at it in the practical aspect. Maybe you are in a state where you are encountering indecision. You are not even sure of yourself whether to turn left or to turn right. How do you discover your purpose? What are the signs and the signals, or how do you even hear from God that this is my purpose? I remember just over this weekend in a conversation, something came up. And then it just came to my mind that when Zacchaeus realized that if he does not purpose in his heart that whatever be the situation, come what may, I want to see the Messiah, he could have been pushed over by the disciples and the multitude. But he had purposed in his heart that no matter what it is, even when nature was to his disadvantage, he said, listen, I will go on the sycamore tree. Maybe the Messiah will see me there. And so what I'm just adding to it, and then I'll let Doc come in, is that you as an individual, you need to know and discover your purpose. But the question is, how do you discover your purpose? How can you tell that this is the God-given purpose that he has given me or he has brought into my life? Dr. J just said earlier on that your purpose can be directed by a God-sent person in your life, just as Mordecai did for Esther. But when you are in tune with the Spirit, you can also hear God clearly, because after Mordecai reminded Esther, what did Esther do? Esther did not go knowing the conditions and what could be at stake. But where did Esther turn? Esther turned back to the Lord and said, do help me in the fast whilst I seek the face of the Lord. And after I have done that, I will go. If I perish, I perish. And so I believe strongly that in the quest for finding our purpose or discovering our purpose, one of the things that we do not need to take for granted is the fact that we need to constantly seek the face of God. Because without that, you might think that, yes, whatever I'm going to do, yes, I need it and so it has to work. But believe you me, without the hand of God in it, just as I read earlier on, it says that to everything there is a season and a time. And so the fact that purpose is defined as our reason for we being in existence, that means your purpose should align with God's reason for your existence. And at this point, I will remind our listeners that wherever you are listening to us from, whichever platform, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Channel of Mercy, on Faith Channel and Supreme Praise Radio, you can join us. You can send us a question on all the platforms in which you are listening to us, and we'll be happy to read your questions. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and also on radio. Doug, at this point, I will let you come in and then...
It's a very beautiful dynamics, and I think that I think we would need more meetings to finish this.
Definitely.
Now, I want you to understand, like you've rightly said, I want you to understand out there that purpose is literally built into every product. When you look at a microphone, like we are talking into right now, it has been built so we talk into it. Any product you see, you don't struggle to know the purpose that product was built. So if you look at the bulb, you already know the purpose of the bulb. If you look at electricity and you look at your socket in the house, you don't go putting pancake inside. You don't mix anything and pour in the electric socket thinking there is power, it can be heated. No. Every product comes with its purpose. You don't have to look far to know the purpose. That is why I want you to understand that you were born with your purpose within you. Your purpose is not outside you, and God is not going to work to bring to you your purpose. So if you have been praying that God, show me my purpose, then you are a little ignorant. Look at your circumstances. Look at the things that you are passionate about. Look at the things that make you tick. Look at the things that you are inclined to. Those are the places that you will easily find your purpose. Now, within all the scope of the things you said, I want us to understand that nobody has an idea about who and what you are or you are supposed to be. So don't rely on any prophet out there to tell you what is to come and what is to happen in your life. No. Everything has been locked up within you, because when you buy a computer to use, you don't need a computer or whatever, a software engineer to come and tell you that this is a computer you have bought. You don't need anybody like that to come and identify it. When you buy a car, you don't need an auto engineer to come and tell you this is a car you have bought before you become convinced that this is a car I have bought. So nobody is supposed to tell you what you are. And listen, nobody knows what is in you and knows who you are and what God has put in you for. So you've got to understand that everything is built into you. When God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness, that was purpose he was talking about. That was the reason for man. He built you like himself. No wonder scripture says that ye are gods and the scriptures cannot be broken. So God has factored everything and who you've got to be in you. Now, to bring this to a very, very, very practical scenario, look at Jesus, 12 years old. He was in the temple and they came to him and said, your father and your mother have been looking for you. You know the question Jesus asked them? He says, know ye not that I must be about my father's business? 12 years. He knew his source, his father. Okay, so if you look at the questions I was going through with you, 12 years, Jesus knew who he was. His identity was not in confusion. 12 years, Jesus knew his source, that was his father. His source was not Mary. His source was not Joseph, though he was born into that family. And clearly he was a carpenter's son, and he was helping in the carpentry shop, and he probably knew how to make chairs and everything. Maybe that day there was a delivery Jesus was supposed to go and make. Maybe he was supposed to go and deliver some chair or some coffin to some family, and they needed him to come so that Joseph will rest. But Jesus did not identify himself with them. It says, know ye not that I must be about my father's business. His father was not Joseph. He did not reduce. No, he knew his source. 12. We are talking about a 12-year-old. You see? So he had his purpose in place. He knew why he was there. And he made it very, very clear. So I want you to know that if you are confused with your purpose, okay, don't go reading any books at this stage. Sit down. It says, be still and know. Okay? So be still, make that time, be still and know what God has created you for. Look at, you see, a lot of times we don't study ourselves. When we buy gadgets and we are confused and we don't know how the gadget works, we stay with the manual to try to do everything to know how the gadgets work. But have you stayed with the manual over your life? Because you are God's gadget and he has given a manual for you. Have you stayed with that manual to be able to discover? Look at yourself. What are your inclinations? What are the things that take you? What are the things that have been dominant with your feelings? What are your passions? What are the things that you are inclined to? It is from these things that you will be able to discover your purpose, which takes us into another avenue of your ability to explore everything around you. A lot of us, we have not been able to explore, to know exactly what we are capable of doing. And one of the things that breaks my heart is, especially we of African descent, before you were born, your parents have figured out what they want for you. There are some family, they tell you that, hey, this is what you have to be. And I had a family friend who became a madman. He became crazy and became a madman walking in the streets. My father's very good friend, his son, this boy was very, very good. He was very good in the sciences. There's nothing he could not do. And his parents wanted him to become a doctor for the pride and for the honor for the family. This guy became so frustrated because he said he wanted to do music. And he was so inclined to music, and you could see that this was the guy's purpose. God built him up for music, and the parents were short-sighted, and all they could see was a disgrace to the family. How can you be singing? And you know what happened? He was so frustrated. He took to smoking weed and other things, and he became mad. And he was walking the streets of my city for a long time. And it was all because he was deprived from exploring. We of African descent, this has been a big challenge to we discovering our purpose. There is no book that will help you. You've got to look at yourself. You've got to, and what we do today is that we try to limit our children. We don't guide them. We want to suppress them and subdue them into what they have to be and to do. Now, this also opens us up to decision making, because you've got to also ask the right questions. Okay? If you can discover your purpose, you've got to ask yourself the right questions. You've got to give the right answers. You've got to take the right decisions. Because what you are going to do with your life depends on the decisions you take. The choices and the decisions are the options you have. And if you get them wrong, a lot of things are going to be wrong. So it's important that we understand these things and to be able to help ourselves discover our purpose.
Wow. If I just chip in this briefly before I let you continue, Doug, with the issue of decision. You know, it is so amazing that when you talk to friends or you talk to people and you ask them, what exactly are you about, or how are things going on, the first thing that they are quick to come up with, or the first defense that they run up to, is always circumstance. You know, currently things are not going well. I'm not doing this. I don't have this. I was having a discussion yesterday with a friend, and in relation to this purpose discussion, because I was talking to him and he said, oh, I've seen a flyer. And I said, yeah, we'll be talking about purpose. But prior to mid last year, he told me about a lady that he wants to, you know, settle down with. And so in the conversation, I asked him, oh, so how is she doing and how are plans going? And the first thing was like, hey, in this situation and in this condition, you know, I've told her that, listen, let me just settle down and get something going. And if I'm able to, you know, and I said, why do you want to do that? He said, but you know, currently I'm not working. I don't have a car. I'm only renting. And I said, okay, so what exactly do you need to get married? Or what are you waiting for? He said, oh, as soon as I get a job within 2 months, I'll marry. That's the promise I've given her. And so I asked him if I could just find out something from him. He said, yes. And I said, okay. So what happens if you get a job and after 2 months, you lose the job? You get a job, you marry, and after 2 months, you lose the job. Are you going to divorce her? You see, and I told her that the purpose for which you want to marry has even begun on the wrong note. You should marry a companion. You should marry a helpmate. But from the very onset, you are looking at how you will get a job before you marry. But we live in a pandemic. Nobody is even sure, and we live in a state of uncertainty. And so, just as you ended on decision, I believe that most people have put purpose on the sideline now because they are even struggling to decide what to do. And that is a very big killer, because by the time you realize time is going against you, and you will end up now beginning to blame people, beginning to accuse people who could have been destiny helpers in your life. And so just what I wanted to add in your ending comments was decision making is very, very important. Today we are having a look at discovering your purpose. We did mention that we are going to give the 3 keys. That is, discover your purpose, develop your purpose, and how you could transfer and transform your life with discovering your purpose. Doug, I'll hand over to you.
All right. I think that let me read a scripture.
Please do.
To address some of these things I've been saying. I know that I may have been making noise in some people's ears, and but I pray that it's a good noise.
Definitely.
That will make you sample a lot of your things. But you see, you need to, in this life, I have come to realize that the questions you answer opens you up to the things you can solve. And that is in the bid of you fulfilling your purpose, discovering your purpose. Now, one of the scriptures I want to read out to you for you to understand what God is saying here. It says in Jeremiah 29 verse 11, it says, "For I know the plans I have for you." He never says, "I am now going to recreate plans for you." He never said, when God created one human being, he didn't come back to create another one, because God knew what he had put in place. And he says, "For I know the plans I have for you." Now, God's plans for you is what we are calling his purpose, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. So God has that your purpose is so crucial that you discover your purpose, because when you discover your purpose, he says plans what? To prosper you. You can only prosper within what you have been given to do. Now, if you are struggling in doing what you are doing right now, and you are struggling and struggling and struggle, don't waste your life struggling. Sit back, ask the right questions, explore some more options, take the right decisions, and be able to redefine yourself. Because whatever your life is meant to be is locked up within you. It said, and it's every plan of God, whether you are up, down, low, is to prosper you, is to make you flourish, not to harm you. And then plans to give you hope and a future, to secure you in your tomorrow. So it's important that you and I come to this realization that a lot of the things that are happening around us are to open us up to the reality of why we exist. And a lot of times, like I said before, when you look at the happenings of your life, you need to really understand that everything that is happening around you is not supposed to destroy you. Everything that is happening around you is supposed to open you up for you to discover what you were meant to be. And a lot of times we become embittered at people who we deem to be the sources of these occurrences. But remember, Esther didn't see Mordecai as the source of the difficult decision she had to take. Esther just understood that this is what is at stake. And NYG, you asked a question earlier,
Yes.
that did Mordecai know the purpose? I don't believe Mordecai knew anything. But what I believe is that Mordecai explored the system of the day and looked at the situation he and Esther were in and realized what he can do and how far he can take this girl so that they can make their mark. That was what it is. That is why I said that, and I don't want to add more to it today because we have to come back to this. That is why I said what you need to get busy about yourself is to explore. If you are confused, begin to explore. Look at your passion. What makes you tick? Look at your passion. Within your exploration, take the right decisions, make the right choices. Because the other thing I need you to understand when it comes to decisions and choices is that time factor is also of a great essence. So some decisions have shelf life. So make the right decisions. God has a plan that he has locked up within you. Look at the things that are practically happening. Maybe let's go through some of the practical stream. Maybe you have lost your job. And the only reason you have lost your job is because God is drawing you into your creativity. And I don't think anybody on this very minute can say it better than you, NYG. I have seen you come out of regular job, not knowing what to do and being confused. And look at where God has put you. You did not know how much you have in you. And are you aware, NYG, that in you exploring and beginning to reaffirm the things within you, asking yourself the right questions and answering and taking the right decision, that was how God caused our paths to cross.
Wow.
So there are a lot of things that we run away from. We see them to be difficult. And a lot of times we run and we want quick fix. But in quick fixes, you cannot discover your purpose within a quick fix. No. That is why when you go to the fast food joint, they tell you that you are eating what? Junk. Because it is not calculated to give you a balanced diet. It will give you sickness. You can't live on fast food. That is why you cannot live your life on the fly. No. Taking quick decisions and making the mistakes and just going and not looking back. No. So there is a link between your destiny and the decisions you make. And what links your destiny and the decisions you make is your purpose. It becomes the link between them. So it's important for you to understand also, if you have to explore, ask the right questions, take the right decisions, that you need the right information. You see that there is a passion within you. You are inclined to a certain level of passion. Look for the right information within that passion in searching and trying to discover what you need to do to make that passion tangible. You will get the right informations that will bring out or that will make your decisions be on the proper stead. So it's important that we understand all these things, that you've got to be daring to explore. Don't easily give up. Make sure that you discover what exactly this feeling is about. What exactly this, sometimes it's even your weaknesses, that as you explore, you will be able to discover the strength, and that brings you into purpose. So don't run away from your tragedies. Don't run away from there are some great people in this world today that had it not been for this tragedy that struck them, they would never have discovered their purpose. And I've had so many people ask me that, how come you got into radio? It was one of the reasons. It's because tragedy struck me. And when tragedy struck me, I began to ask myself the sensitive questions and to ask myself, what is this supposed to do to my life? Where is this supposed to carry me? What am I supposed to do out of this? And as I began to reach down within myself, asking myself the impossible questions and to be able to find out what can I do, I chanced on the fact that radio is one of the things I need to do. And when I came into it, listen, I did not know that this was going to prepare me for COVID-19. I did not even know there was a COVID-19 coming up. But because of how I went to work with the tragedy that struck me, that brought this creativity out. And at the end of the day, when COVID-19 came, I have not struggled. I've heard people struggle. There are certain churches that have closed down. There are churches that have, so many things have happened. But listen, I have been flying high through this COVID-19. Why? Because I asked certain questions when tragedy struck. So whatever you are going through is to help you to be able to understand and get to know yourself rather than putting the blame on somebody. Is the easiest thing to do. So that every decision you take and every question you ask yourself lines up with your destiny. The other thing I want to add to it before we go away, because I believe we have to come back to this and continue, is you have to slow down in discovering your purpose. It's a process. Don't rush yourself. Sometimes, or a lot of times, you just need to take your time and go through it. Don't be in a hurry. Take your time. Because certain decisions you make will take you a lifetime. So ask the right questions. Ask yourself every day you wake up, ask yourself the right questions, because they become the compass to you discovering your purpose. They become the direction into your purpose. Ask yourself the right questions. When you see people go in a certain direction, it's because of the questions they are answering within themselves. So if you want a quick fix, your life will go in a certain way. If you want the real deal out of your life, it will also go in a certain way. So everything comes together. Every experience you have had, or every experience you are going through, be it grief, be it loss, be it tragedy, be it victory, be it good things that have happened to you, be it disappointment, be it betrayal, be it backstabbing, be it what. Don't just look at the thing that has happened to you and be resolute and take a decision and be against every woman. Take a decision and be against every man. Take a decision and be against everybody. No. And I want you to know that the purpose God has given to your life, why he has you here, is supposed to make God look good. It's supposed to reflect God's glory, God's beauty. It's supposed to reflect God's honor. That is why it's important that you discover your purpose. That is why it's important that you don't shy away or run away or become bitter. No. Open yourself to the pain, because the pain will work out his glory in you. The pain will make you discover something. The limitation will make you discover something that nobody has been able to discover. So I want you to understand that your life is set to contribute to solving the world's problem. And your part, listen, nobody has been called to the people that you have been called to. That is why you need to discover your purpose. Nobody can run the race you have been called to run. And that is the beauty of it. You don't have to be in competition with anybody. Don't be in competition with them, because somebody in competition with nobody has manufactured the computer. Somebody also in competition with nobody has gone to learn the software that can sit behind the computer and make magic come out of the computer. They are not all the same. Everybody is running their race. And somebody also has the purpose to register in that conference so that this interplay of technology or technological minds can be downloaded finally to them and equip them with information so they can also run their businesses in a certain way. So nobody is running the friend's race. Everybody has been designed for a particular reason. That is why God put his stamp of approval on you. And his stamp of approval is his image and his likeness. God completed it and defined your life within your purpose. It's up to you to now discover. Bible says that it is the honor of God or a king to conceal a matter, but it is also the honor of the subject to discover the matter. So your honor is in the discovery of your purpose. It comes with honor, it comes with glory, it comes with beauty. But don't look far. Look at all the occurrences in your life. Your purpose is within it. Diamonds in the rough.
Wow. Need I say more? I believe that Dr. J has said it all, but just a little bit I'll add to it briefly and then we'll wrap up for today. We will be back again continuing the topic on purpose. Today we've been looking extensively on discovering your purpose. The little that I want to add to it is that when you know your purpose, if you know your purpose, you do not struggle. You see, Dr. J gave so many scenarios and instances with the pancake being used at the electric socket and all that. If you know your purpose, you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. It's just like the scenario of a car and a lorry. They all have wheels. They all move on the road. But the two of them were not meant or were not made for the same purpose. Somebody you know might be driving a 4-wheel drive. Another person is also driving a saloon car. The two of them are made to have wheels, are made to have engines, move on the same road, but the two of them do not serve the same purpose. And so if you don't know your purpose, you end up struggling. Everything you touch, you will do it wrongly. You might have thought that, well, if the small car is able to carry a certain amount of load, and so I also want to get heavy load, and so I'll go and buy a lorry. Maybe all you need is just a saloon car or maybe a 4-wheel drive to start a small business transporting goods from here to there. But because you think, well, I have the desire to do delivery, I have the passion to do delivery, and so I'm going to buy a lorry. Yes, you buy a lorry, but the point is, if you have to do let's say city rounds, you can't do delivery with lorries in the city. Obviously, you need something smaller. You need a van. You need maybe a car or maybe just a small 4-wheel drive to do all those rounds. And even sometimes you don't even need a 4-wheel drive in the city. Why am I saying so? It would be wrong to assume that maybe because I have lots of load, I have a lot to deliver, and so I might need to buy a bigger lorry and use that for delivery, whilst for all you know, all you needed was just a bigger van. And so the fact that you see wheels and they can move does not mean that you go get something bigger. Sometimes all you need is just a small, humble beginning. Sometimes all you need is a small or a standard shop somewhere to start your business. Because if you do the wrong thing at the wrong time and the wrong season, believe you me, you will end up struggling. And so sometimes we hear people say, I've tried everything, I'm doing everything possible, but yet things seem not to go well with me. Dear one listening to us out there, all I want to say is find out what your purpose is. And how are you able to identify your purpose? Dr. J has said, what are you passionate about? What do you find yourself doing the most? What is it that when you do, your heart is at peace? What is it that when you even sleep and you are tapped to wake up, you can all of a sudden just begin to rattle at it? Ask yourself, what do you spend your time doing? What have you been doing that it is not bringing you joy, it is not bringing you happiness, and yet you keep spending and investing so much time and money into it? The best you can deliver, the very best of you, would always come out of your passion. It is what you are passionate about that will give you a guidance or a direction to your passion. And somebody might be listening and say, okay, well, you're talking about passion, you're talking about maybe what I would love to do, but here am I. I'm married, I have a job, I have all that you're talking about, but yet life seems not to be going well for me. What do I do? Dr. J said, have you found out, or have you taken time to go within yourself and to ask yourself, what is it that is my God-given talent? What can I do and be so happy about it? It first begins inside of you. It is within you. That is why the Bible said that he's giving us the blessings. It is installed in us. When we were made, or we were created, God placed it inside of us. It is up to you to ask yourself and to find out. Somebody might say, well, I don't know what my passion is and I don't even know how to. But you see, for all you know, you spend hours and minutes always on social media looking for news, information, and even gossips. Oh, have you heard this? Have you seen this person's dress? Have you, heard the latest, let's say podcast? Have you heard the latest beef? All these things. And you are very good in delivering gossip. But let me tell you, pause for a moment. Could it be that you are wrongly using your purpose to do something else? If you are good in investigating and also fishing information, couldn't it be that you could be good in journalism? You could be good in marketing. You could be good in probably doing radio or TV presentation. It does not only take the one who is already made to stand in front of the cameras or behind the microphones. You might also say, oh, I love game consoles, I love computer, I'm always on the computer, I'm always chatting. Could it be that you might even end up to become a developer? Think about these things. Oh, well, I'm not that good, but then all the time I'm able to, criticize people. Did you see the lady's shoe the other day? Well, you did see this guy's jacket. Oh, the color was some way. I just think, could it be that you could even be a graphics designer, or you could even be a fashion designer? These are pointers. These are things that you need to look at carefully, consider carefully. What do you spend time doing? What is it that unconsciously or consciously you see yourself being drifted into, but yet you don't know that that consumes your time? You don't know that that is your passion. Just as Dr. J said, tragedy might hit you. And you see, most of the time, it is in these situations and these circumstances that most of the breakthroughs come. Because if you are not hit to fall by the side and learn how to get up, you might think that you are always standing, and so that is the end of it. But sometimes you need a tragedy to hit you. Finally, let me do the exposition of what Dr. J said with churches, and I'm so passionate about media. Prior to COVID, I went around most of the pastor friends I knew and most of the churches, especially here in the United Kingdom, crusading and talking about church and the media, how church could save some time and save some effort. I'm not saying the weekend standing by the roadside, by the bus stops and by all these places evangelizing is not good, but God has given us a more suitable and advanced way, effortless way, where you can evangelize. And you might be in Sheffield, you might be in London, but there are people listening to you in America, there are people listening to you in Africa, there are people listening to you in the Asias, in the Middle East, and yet you still want to go and stand by the roadside with a megaphone, which I am not saying it is wrong, but then you still want to stand there and minister to just a few. You need to find out. You need to, just as Dr. J said, you need to explore. When the tragedy hits you, explore. But in your exploration, first look at what drives you on. What is it that you do effortless? What is it that you will love to do without even being pushed to do it? Today, we have been looking at purpose. Discovering your purpose in relation to success. And the 3 pointers we brought to you today was discover, develop, and transform or transfer. We have looked extensively at discovering purpose. And with me on a discussion today has been Dr. J. And Dr. J is the co-founder and CEO of Channel of Mercy Radio. And as he rightly said, if it had not been for the sake of COVID, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. Today, I can honestly and confidently tell you, he's an international radio evangelist, broadcaster, and should I add DJ?
I don't know about that.
Well, that is just on the lighter side. So, beloved, yes, in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of chaos, there are several ways you can discover your purpose. And believe you me, I would want to read this final scripture for us to close on. And that will take me to Proverbs chapter 16, verses 7. It says, when a man's way pleases the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. Who is that person you are fighting? Who is that person you are always accusing of being your shortfall and your shortcoming? Who is that person you've been pointing fingers to, even in your office? I remember one of the days in my conversation, I always told Dr. J that, my previous manager, I don't know, it looks like the man just didn't like me. Everything I do, this man will complain. Until I left that position, I felt so much at peace. You see, when your ways does not please God, when you are not inclined with the purpose of God, you will try, you will work hard, you will use your energy, you will use your time, you will use your resources and your investment. But if it does not please God, I am not the one saying it. It is here in the Bible, Proverbs 16 verses 7. It says, when a man's ways pleases the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. That is when you see that when you are inclined with your God-given purpose and success and your life has been transformed. One man said one day that, listen, it is difficult for the poor to invite somebody to go to church. And it's true. But when you know that this person is rich, he's doing well in society, as we speak and you're listening to me, if Bill Gates or even one of the top billionaires should come inviting you to church, or somebody you know is well to do should tell you, you know what, and even if it's within short notice, calls you Saturday evening and say, you know what, tomorrow I'm taking you to church. And the beautiful thing is, they don't even call to tell you that, oh, please, tomorrow, are you? It says, you know what, tomorrow I'm picking you up for church. You agree. But when you are not well to do, and you even look at yourself and the one you are going to invite to go to church, the person will look at you and say, hey, you better check yourself twice. And it is always difficult for the poor to always make decisions that are accepted until you break through, until you get to a certain status and a certain level in society where you can talk and have authority. But you see, God said in his word that he has created man in his image and has given him power and authority over the works of his hands. Beloved, just as Esther discovered her purpose for being in King Ahasuerus' palace and was able to go before the king and even declare that she was a Jew and that Haman has declared death upon the Jews, and that decree was able to be overturned. When you discover your purpose, you would enjoy power, you will enjoy authority, you will enjoy the blessings of God, and you would be a man of respect. I will leave it here, but I would not end without letting Dr. J give us his final remark, and then we'll close for today.
I think what I would want to end it with for today, this session, is the story of Ruth. You started with Esther. I want to just give a very comprehensive summary of Ruth. Ruth married Naomi's son. Her husband died. This was a family that was hit by tragedy. Naomi lost 2 sons and lost her husband in a foreign land. And Naomi became very bitter. And she said, call me Mara, call me bitter. And she decided to pack and go back to her village. And Ruth knew this woman from nowhere. It was only the son that she married. And Ruth was a Moabite. And there was a law barring the Moabites from fellowshipping with the Jews. So there was every limitation in place. But within those limitations was also planted God's purpose for Ruth, God's purpose for Naomi, God's purpose for all the men that died, God's purpose for the season. But clearly, the right questions were asked and the right decisions were taken. Ruth decided to follow Naomi. Naomi took a decision out of bitterness that I'm going back, but that was the right decision to take. And when she decided to go back, Ruth and Orpah, the 2 women who married her sons, decided to go with them. But you know what? Naomi said, don't you go with me. Oprah took that and resigned. And that was the end of Oprah in the story. Beloved, whatever is before you, whatever is stopping you, whatever is telling you in the face that don't do it, because you have been betrayed, you have been stabbed, it's a tragedy, it's difficult, don't do it. Don't you listen. Go ahead and do what you've got to do. Ruth took a decision and said, Naomi, I am going beyond you. I'm going beyond your decision. I'm going beyond everything your bitterness is spewing out. Listen, go beyond the bitterness. Go beyond the difficulties. Go beyond the limitations. Go beyond the backstab. Go beyond, because beyond it is the discovery of your purpose for life. Beyond every barrier is your discovery. Because the purpose and the place of Ruth was to be part of the lineage of Jesus. But she didn't know that. It took the tragedy that hit her, and it took the questions that were asked, and it took the decisions that were made that manifested the real purpose of Ruth. So as we leave it on this note, discovering your purpose, understand that God's plans are not subject to the tragedy. God hasn't changed his mind because things went wrong. God hasn't changed his mind because of the victory. God hasn't changed his mind. Where he had you from the beginning, he is still there. His purpose is still there. Rise up to it. Don't let anything deter you. You were born for this time. You were created for this time. They may call it COVID late season, but there is no better season for you to be alive than this moment. See what others do not see and fulfill your destiny, because I can hear the voice of destiny calling you into action. The Lord bless you till we come your way next week. Amen. And thank you very much, NYG.
Thank you very much, Dr. J. And we are so blessed to have had you on the program Purpose. And this evening, we've been live on YouTube at the NYG Podcast, Facebook at the NYG Podcast, across the radio networks, Supreme Praise Radio, Channel of Mercy, and also Faith Channel Radio. All these radio stations in the United Kingdom, we have been streaming live with a massive listening. We say that to God be the glory. It was for a purpose that all these things are going on today. I'd want to just quickly leave you with 3 things and for you to ponder on whilst we come your way another time. Okay, so the first one I would want you to take note of is that do not let the reason for your decision in any situation or any circumstance based on your current situation. Do not let the reason for which you make any decision or you decide to do anything be based on your very immediate circumstance or situation. Because if you do that, you might be missing your purpose. Listen, the second thing I also want to share with you is that when challenges occur, there are great opportunities. Where there are challenges, there are great opportunities, and there's so many people who can attest to the fact. Dr. J has mentioned, I have mentioned, and you know people who broke through, especially when their back was against the wall. And finally, what I also want to share with you is that when you discover your purpose, you live a life of peace. And so today we've come your way with a program Discovering Your Purpose in Relation to Success. All we are saying is that position yourself, place yourself or position yourself strategically, that when you are hit by the storm, you'll be able to look around you, and out of the mess around you, God from that will create a purpose for which you will rise to your higher heights. The Lord bless you. My name has been NYG, and I've been very honored to be on this very podcast with Dr. J, who I once again say that he is the co-founder and CEO of Channel of Mercy Radio in Sheffield, United Kingdom. He is married to a very beautiful young lady in the person of Mrs. Ellen Gomado, and with 3 wonderful children, 1 son and 2 daughters. He's always been a blessing. You can get in touch with Dr. J on Channel of Mercy. That is www.channelofmercy.com. He is on Facebook. He is also on Instagram and Twitter. You can also reach Channel of Mercy on Facebook at Channel of Mercy. And the podcast, you can also reach Channel of Mercy podcast at podbean.com. These and many more. Dr. J is always on radio Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. And he does a program which is titled A Journey Through the Word. And I tell you, if you tune into the program, your life will be transformed. It is a life-changing and thought-provoking program, which everything he does comes straight from the Word, from the Bible. And so make a date with Dr. J on Channel of Mercy, and also on weekends as well. There are so many interesting programs you can listen to, and it will change your life. I'm also on radio Saturday mornings from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the program The Cosmopolitan Weekend Show. Interviews, news, and music, the best you can get for a Saturday morning. Make a date with me on the same channel. If you're on Channel of Mercy, you're on Supreme Praise, or you're on Faith Channel, the Cosmopolitan Weekend Show rolls across all these sister stations on a Saturday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The best gospel program you can get on a Saturday early morning. Make a date with me, and God will bless you. Please do subscribe to the platforms you are listening to. If it's on Channel of Mercy, Supreme Praise, Faith Channel, the NYG podcast, please do subscribe either on YouTube, on Facebook, send a like. And the most important of all, the reason we are here today is to transform the life of our listener. If you have been blessed, share this message and bless the life of someone else. Look out for our next podcast, which I believe that it will be seasoned with salt, because we will definitely come in after a fresh start, after looking at purpose. I beg your pardon, we will come in with an expert to also look at purpose from a different angle. The Lord bless you, and Dr. J, thank you so much once again. It's an honor to always share the stage with you.
Bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much to our wonderful listeners. It's time we say bye-bye to you. Stay blessed, stay focused, and be purposeful. Bye for now.